Bonjour! How's everybody doing? We hope you're doing well out there. The boys are back in town. It's Wrestling International Mixtape 2. Rap Star Boogaloo. That's stupid. Scrap it. Scrap the whole intro. Just kidding. Let's fucking roll. By God, Boris. It's Boris. It's Yorke. Paul Yorke. It's Matt Ederer. We're here to talk about our best and favorite War Games matches and make a mixtape for you. How are you doing, fellas?
Fantastic.
I'm doing
as
good.
Always good too.
Been a good 3 days since our last call.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Not bad. Not bad.
I love these. At least this one's not on video, so we don't have to like change shirts or anything. But
Yeah.
but this episode, as Matt mentioned, we are going to be talking about War Games. This one to me is a little interesting, right? And I know, like, for me personally, this was a lot harder to choose because I watched a lot less WCW back in the day. So for me to pick the best, honestly, did take a little while to really get to. And I had to watch some of these matches. And oddly enough, my best isn't even a WCW. Some intrigue for the episode.
Ooh, a little bit of intrigue. So yeah, if you're new to the concept, we go around the table picking a match that is near and dear to our heart, and then picking a match that we think objectively is the best of this stipulation, this genre, if you will. That's the wrong word, but we're going anyway. How are y'all fellas doing today?
I'm what Boris said. Good.
That's very nice. There's a slight, maybe a slight lag here, Yorke. We don't mean to keep interrupting you. But yeah, so War Games matches, these have taken over the Survivor Series as the main gimmick of the Survivor Series. And that kind of makes me sad in a way, although I am glad we live in a world where these War Games matches are back. How do you feel about where Survivor Series is currently at in terms of 2 War Games per show, Yorke?
I'm going to be controversial now. And I'm going to say War Games should have stayed with NXT. Because it was their gimmick.
Yeah,
to begin
that's
with.
true.
When it came back, it was their gimmick, and it made NXT feel special. It made it for me. War Games was like NXT's WrestleMania.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Like,
it kind of was. They took the biggest feud of the year and kind of put it in War Games.
And then obviously Triple H got promoted and he took War Games with him.
Yeah, and well, you know, NXT right now does have the Iron Survivor, and I like the Iron Survivor. The booking of it can be a little stupid sometimes, but I like the concept of it, and I kind of like the match itself for the most part, and hopefully that stays as an NXT gimmick, you know, kind of their December show, Deadline,
until
Iron
Shawn
Survivors.
Michaels gets promoted.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then we relive all of Shawn Michaels' career on live TV again.
His greatest hits. I love Shawn Michaels' wrestling, though, but that's a perfectly good point that even the biggest fan of HBK booking, me, has no retort to. He's just running through his career's greatest hits pretty often. Yeah, but guess what? Shawn Michaels' career was fucking great, fellas. But yes, we are here to discuss War Games. Yorke, I think I agree with you. Just because more than anything, I think they're overexposing the War Games gimmick by doing at least 2 a year. At least 2. They do every year on this show. But then AEW also has War Games. There's also always an indie War Games somewhere along the year. New Japan just did a War Games match not too long ago. Ring of
MLW.
Honor versus CZW. MLW always does the War Chamber. These matches aren't that special anymore. So I would say if you were going to bust it out, do it not twice a year every Survivor Series, but once in a while. To quote Norm Macdonald, once in a while, Boris.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It kind of takes some luster out of it, even this whole yearly thing. And I understand you want to give the women and the men the same opportunities, but having 2 of these matches sometimes can be a lot, which is why I think the biggest feud of the year, Bloodline versus Bloodline, should be the War Games match, and maybe the women's War Games match could have been a traditional 5-on-5 Survivor Series match.
Do you know what I thought should have been the women's War Games match? That 5-on-5 tag team match we had on NXT the other week.
Oh yeah. I honestly thought that. Yeah, could have easily been the WarGames match with Julia and everyone else.
Yeah, Stephanie Vaquer and crew. Yeah, that's a great call. I agree with that point, Boris. Good one. They should split this up and do a traditional Survivor Series and a War Games on each show. As I said on the last podcast, I wonder if it's something to do with like the rings and it looking weird or being harder to set up. I don't know if that makes any sense. This is kind of spitballing as to why they just decided to change it forever and kind of never again do a traditional Survivor Series match. Maybe Triple H just dislikes them. Who knows? But let's talk about when War Games were great, when it was special, when it was the best stipulation in wrestling. Boris, we'll start with you, buddy. What's a War Games match that lives near and dear to your heart? If not objectively the best, one of your favorite?
It's the first one I watched live, not live in person, just live on TV on pay-per-view with the illegal cable box. That was WCW Fall Brawl 1996, the NWO, Hollywood Hogan, Kevin Nash, Sting, and Scott Hall versus Team WCW, Arn Anderson, Lex Luger, Ric Flair, and Sting.
Yes. This was Sting versus bogus Sting. We talked about this match on the old podcast feed, not yet on A+ Productions. I'm glad to discuss this with you, Boris, because this was my pick for favorite War Games match. Fall Brawl 1996, the NWO versus WCW. This is such a great match for a number of reasons. The NWO team, as you said, it's the Outsiders, Hall and Nash, and fucking Hogan. That's the NWO A team with fake Sting, bogus Sting, and they take on the WCW A team, Ric Flair, Lex Luger, Sting, and Arn Anderson. This is where Sting proves his loyalty to WCW and then beats the shit out of all the heels and walks out on WCW. One of the great moments in storytelling in wrestling history. Sting goes, "You turned your back on me, so I'm turning my back on you after all these years." And he walks out in WCW. He goes up to the rafters for a year, dresses like the dude in The Crow for some reason, and history is never the same, Boris.
Yep.
Yorkie, have you ever seen this match? How do you feel about this one?
I'll be honest, I've not seen this match.
This match is great. It's a lot of fun. Go back. Heads the mixtape. I'm telling you. Go watch this.
I will go and watch. I will go and watch it. I'll be honest. When it comes to War Games matches, I have only watched like a certain few in WCW.
Yep. Again, going back to I think a lot of people just grew up on WWE, WWF so much that we didn't really get this, and we were too young in the 80s to watch some of the old ones.
Fun fact that I found out today, Arn Anderson has been in 20 of 22 War Games matches that had been in WCW. I didn't realize there'd been that many.
That's crazy. That's a lot.
Yeah, well, part of that too is because they had, that is a lot. They made it like a much like WWE, except WWE does 2 every year, not even just 1. But they did make it like the Starrcade main event for a bit, and then it was on WrestleWar for a bit. But when they first debuted War Games, it was a touring match. They did this around the loop, as they say, and in like 87 and 88, there's like 20 War Games matches. They were just touring this bitch.
Yeah, it's a nice little attraction. Why not show it off?
Absolutely, yeah. And yes, that makes Arn Anderson is Mr. War Games, the way that Randy Orton was Mr. Survivor Series. So 96, NWO lays waste to WCW because Sting walked out on them, and the bad guys won, and wanton terror and chaos took over WCW. This match is also near and dear to my heart. I love the call, Boris. We're putting it on the mixtape. Yorkie, what's a War Games match that you love, buddy?
The one that I love is a WCW one. Great American Bash 87. It's the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff. It's the very first one. It's literally the very first War Games match. Obviously, Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff, Dusty Rhodes, and Paul Ellering versus the Horsemen. It's just brutality. It's mental, and I love it.
Yes, very violent. I think you could very easily, intelligently make the case that this was the best War Games match because for time and place, right? They had to introduce this gimmick. They had to create this match out of thin air. And it was such a violent, wild spectacle for NWA in 1987. This really stood out. So yeah, the Four Horsemen at this time were Ric Flair, the Brainbusters, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard, and Lex Luger was a Four Horseman at this time, and the manager J.J. Dillon also in this match. J.J. Dillon was an older wrestler, but he hadn't really wrestled in like 10, 15 years, I don't think. So yeah, just a violent bloodbath of a match. I think all 10 guys bled, or at least all 8 of the main wrestlers, not the 2 managers, but like 8 out of 10 guys bled.
JJ bled.
JJ bled.
Yeah, there you go. So I think all 10. I think all 10 guys bleed in this match. And just say, Great American Bash, 1987. The first one was July 4th, 1987. Absolute war. And I would say, you can safely and easily say this was a 5-star match for its time and place. This was, just fucking brutal, brilliant. Great way to kick off a gimmick.
Yeah, and this was like a culmination, right? Yep. Remember the Four Horsemen? They broke Dusty's leg. They damaged Nikita's neck. They were like, this was like, the perfect build. And it's like, okay, we're going to put you guys in a cage and going to kick each other's asses.
Yes, and boy, did they deliver. Great call on this, Yorke. Yeah. I love it. Boris, you picked mine for 1996, so I'm going to shout one out here off the top of my head. I'm going to break the rules slightly. It's not War Games. It is Cage of Death. But have y'all ever seen the Ring of Honor versus CZW Cage of Death match from 2006? I think we need to put that on this mixtape.
I think that's a great pick for this mixtape.
I have never seen any CZW. I've avoided it because I know it is gratuitous in its violence, and while I've just been talking about that violent match a minute ago, obviously I know CZW take their things that one step further, and I'm not into that kind of thing.
Yeah, CZW is overall pretty bad, gratuitously violent for sure. Lots of deathmatch wrestlers who stayed in CZW, didn't really do much. But listen to these rosters and tell me if you think this is actually worth your time to some extent. So the Ring of Honor team, Ace Steel, ironically, Adam Pearce, Raw GM, BJ Whitmer, Bryan Danielson, Homicide, and Samoa Joe. 6-man team, Ring of Honor. Their CZW team, no slouches here. Chris Hero, Claudio Castagnoli, Eddie Kingston, Nate Webb, and Necro Butcher. So Chris Hero, Claudio Castagnoli, and Eddie Kingston, 3 legitimate, real good wrestlers on Team CZW.
Is that 6-on-5?
It was 6-on-5 because this was a match where Bryan Danielson came in to quote-unquote help Ring of Honor and then walked out on Ring of Honor. He pulled kind of the Dakota Kai in some way and turned on his teammates, made it clear that he doesn't give a shit about Ring of Honor. And Homicide, who was not announced, comes into the match as a conquering hero for Ring of Honor. And that's what gave CZW kind of the heat, because CZW loses in the end, but they kind of have an out and excuse because the guy, Homicide, wasn't even supposed to be in the match, but he walked in. So it was actually 5-on-5 because Bryan Danielson quits on his team because he doesn't give a fuck about Ring of Honor. He just wants to be the best wrestler in the world. He just wants the Ring of Honor championship. Lots of storytelling happening in this match. Lots of violence. And this is actually on a Ring of Honor card, not a CZW card. It's Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor 4, July 15th, 2006. So you could watch this and not pop your CZW cherry, as it were. Paul,
I will possibly have a look. If this mixtape comes out on some miraculous streaming site, I will try and check it out.
Yeah, this match is good. This is one of those matches that I remember just randomly getting a DVD of and loving this.
Yeah, arguably the best War Games match. I love this match. Yeah, Ace Steel, it's funny to see him being a real wrestler. Adam Pearce, very good, underrated wrestler, fundamentally sound, kind of like a Tim Duncan of wrestling, is Raw GM Adam Pearce. Yeah, Death Before Dishonor 4, excellent match, absolutely great. I do think you should watch it. Coming to a gray web near you, this mixtape.
Yep, there you go. Great pick, Matt. Great pick.
All right. Thanks, buddy. So what do you think, Boris, what would be your choice for the best War Games match objectively of all time?
So, and we already talked about the original, which that one could be anyone's choice for the best. But we're going to talk about the original NXT one. And this one is a little different, and this one is so entertaining. That's the Undisputed. Listen to the names. Only 2 people are still in the company, FYI. The Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly versus Sanity's Alexander Wolf, Eric Young, and Killian Dane versus Roderick Strong and the Authors of Pain. It was a triple threat WarGames match. It is just so well done. Really love this match. Authors of Pain were basically like the Legion of Doom of this match. So good. So fucking good.
Man, yeah, Sanity, boy, I haven't thought of those guys in years. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I like this match. It was just a fun match. Again, going back to what I said at the top is I never really watched these until way after. So this one, objectively for me, was the quote-unquote best. And I still think that this is the best WWE version WarGames match.
Can I just and say that you're wrong?
That's the whole point.
Yep, good. Don't get me wrong. It is a great match. It's not the best one.
What's yours?
Objectively, I will. Right, I'm gonna go out on a limb now. I know what Matt's gonna say for his best match, so I'm not gonna say that one.
Interesting.
So I'm gonna go with my second favorite match, of all time, and it's a WWE one, and it's Undisputed Era. The 4 that were in that match: Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Adam Cole. To the one, Roderick. That's it.
See, everyone always forgets Roderick.
Poor Roddy.
Against the War Raiders, Ricochet and Pete Dunne.
That one was a good one. That one was a good one too.
I love that match. To me, that was the star-stealing match for the War Raiders because I thought they were unbelievable. Hansen, I love Hansen.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah, this is when Triple H was in charge of NXT, and he loves him some War Raiders, or at least did in 2018, pushing the War Raiders hard. Pete Dunne and Ricochet also added a ton to this match. Great call.
Hey, War Raiders are getting spotlight on Raw, so they're back, right? So, yeah.
That is very true. So, okay, on the mixtape right now, we have Fall Brawl, 1996 Fall Brawl, NWO versus WCW. We have the original WarGames from 87, Cage of Death, CZW versus Ring of Honor. And then we have NXT TakeOver WarGames 2017 and NXT TakeOver WarGames 2018 back-to-back. I feel like that's fair. Those are the 2 best WWE WarGames matches. It was still fresh. It was still a hell of a novelty. All 8 guys in these matches worked their asses off. Undisputed Era kind of ended up owning the WarGames concept, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I thought
they did. Adam Cole was in all of them until he left, basically, right? So
Kyle O'Reilly was in more.
Yeah,
he was in Team Black and Gold.
Yeah,
that
was, I think, the scariest WarGame match because you had all these guys who just like were quote unquote green and new rookies, right? Putting them up against like especially like Ciampa's neck and everyone. And famously, I guess this was when Gargano's last match for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting match for sure. Probably the best of that era. But yeah, WWE has done some good WarGames matches, and I am excited for Bloodline v Bloodline, and even the women's one on the upcoming Survivor Series show will be very good. So all we have left is my choice for objectively best, and I do think the best WarGames match is still from WrestleWar 1992. Yorkie, if you thought that's what I was going to pick, you were correct. Listen to the names. Listen to the Hall of Famers in this match. It is Sting, Barry Windham, Dustin Rhodes, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and Nikita Koloff. Sting's squadron, as it were. The Nymets, no longer my favorite squadron. They were against the Dangerous Alliance. Steve Austin, Ravishing Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Mr. WarGames, beautiful Bobby Eaton, and Larry motherfucking Sabisco with Paul E. Dangerously and Alundra Blaze Medusa in the corner. Let's go. Holy shit. This match is great. It kind of feels like a modern WarGames. You can still watch this match and have a lot of fun doing it.
Especially with the names involved, right? Like, these are all names that, like, we know for, you know, like, it's especially people around our age. These are the wrestlers that we grew up with. I did watch this one, actually, in anticipation of this show, because, like I said, there's so many that I missed, and I did like this one a lot. This one is fresh on my mind, and like you said, it felt modern. It felt like a modern wrestling. You know how oftentimes when you watch wrestling, especially from, like, the late 80s, early 90s, you compare it to today's style and today's wrestling and today's booking, and it just feels different. This match and a few other matches felt so, like, just timeless.
It always will be.
Yeah,
because it's held in such high regard.
Yes,
it won't be seen anything other than timeless.
Tony Stark.
That's true. Yeah, very good. Time and place is a bit. Of course, it's time and place too, right? Like in 1992, this was wild. This was one of the first matches I can remember ever seeing where the wrestlers tore apart the ring and used like the turnbuckle and the metal rod that attaches the turnbuckle to the post as a weapon. It's the first WarGames match where wrestlers made it outside of the ring and climbed the cage. That was innovative, though they didn't fly off the fucking thing like Mick Foley or Shawn Michaels. Still innovative to see them get up on the top of the cage and fight around for a time. I guess there was actually no fighting. It was just Sting chasing Medusa on the top of the cage. But that was a crazy spot in 1992. And yeah, I just think if you consider time and place and the amount of wrestling that has come before it, this was so influential, so great. So many Hall of Famers. I think this is the best WarGames match to this day. WarGames 1992.
And I would argue, Matt, just again, because recently watching this match and everything that you just brought up, this game is kind of like the cookie cutter for the blood and guts in AEW.
Yeah, that's such a good call, man. That's such a good call. This is pretty much what AEW does with all of their war games, isn't it? Someone's getting on the roof, lots of blood, all the characters, possibly a manager or two outside.
No, exactly. Great call. Great call. Like I said, this one was a really good one. Some of the war games matches, like Survivor Series matches that we talked about last episode, are a little long. So for you to be entertained for about an hour, these matches really do stand out. And I think we have completed quite the mixtape of WarGames matches for people to check out.
Oh, it's the definition of perfection.
Exactly.
I think so.
I don't know where that came from.
Because it's true. It's true, Yorkie. It came from the heart. But yeah, this was a lot of fun, fellas. I enjoy doing this. We got to do some more of these. Maybe like best. I don't know what's coming up.
Royal Rumble.
Best Royal Rumbles coming up. We can crank out some of those for January. Yeah, we can do. We'll talk about it. We'll figure out some things. We can always do best AEW match, best WWE match, best ladder match, depending on what comes along.
There's so many different things we could cover with this now.
Exactly. And this is where we want your feedback as listeners, because here at A+, we love the feedback, and we do want to hear, what do you guys want us to make a mixtape of? What you guys and gals and anyone listening, let us know. We have the Facebook group. That's probably the easiest way to get a hold of us. We love having conversations, love the back and forth, love the chats that we have, and let us know what you want a mixtape of.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, it's a really cool gimmick. We could possibly find its way onto our Patreon, or maybe we just keep it a free show. Possibly do it on the old YouTube's a video portion. We can get like 4 or 5 people in on this and make a longer mixtape. But I like these tight 6 to 7 matches. It's pretty solid, So this was just a lot of fun. Thank you very much for listening. Thank y'all for playing along. Do we have anything to plug before we get out of here?
Just go to aplusproductions.com. You can find all of our shows from A+ Sports, A+ Entertainment, and A+
OnlyFans
Wrestling, and our OnlyFans, where you can get schlong shots of Matt and myself.
All dick pics all the time on the A+ OnlyFans. Let's go. No, OnlyFans is not coming yet. But the night is young.
Coming in your eye.
People are gonna have to pay us not to start the OnlyFans.
So send us your money. And
hilarious. Yeah, and that's how we truly kill it on Patreon. $15 a month to keep us off of OnlyFans, and we have 7,000 subscribers.
As Tony Storm does say, sits out, mind the shoe.
Exactly.
I love it. Great call. Yeah, let's leave it there. So from Paul Yorke, Boris Aguilar, and Matt Ederer, tits out, chin up, and watch out for us on OnlyFans.